So, Theory, did you watch Andor?
I did watch Andor. I'm getting flamed online by the Disney fans.
For not loving it?
Yeah, for not loving it, but also just like, why the fuck was there like a sexual assault scene? And I thought that was just off-putting in Star Wars. And I'm a Sopranos fan. Like, it's my favorite show, and there's a lot of that shit in there. But it's like, this was just the fuck. Why in Star Wars? I don't think they know their audience.
Well, so let me go through, I guess, a couple things about my feelings on it. I think it's perfectly reasonable, especially now that we've got, 8 to 10 different series that we've seen, some live action, some more than that if you count all the animated stuff. And they're coming out with all these different movies. I think it's perfectly reasonable to make shows, whether it's just one targeted, like very little kids, like that stupid little young Jedi Adventures, whatever it is. I also think it's okay to do a Star Wars show targeted towards a more mature audience. I do think that there's maybe a line where, in terms of, look, if Bix had her tits out, first of all, I would have loved to see that. But if Bix had her tits out and she's being brutally fucking raped, like I said, if this was like a Game of Thrones level type of scene, I could understand why there's some like backlash and outrage. But to me, it wasn't even, it was kind of like a big nothing burger.
Yeah.
Because we saw an Imperial officer attempting to force himself on someone, and he got killed for it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So you were like shocked when you saw that?
I was just like, why? The dude is some creepy ass rapist trying to take her from behind and do all this. Like, I don't know. I just didn't think that really. When I think of Star Wars, I think of like the first 6 films, and I'm like, this is just kind of out of place. I feel like if there's other ways that you want to portray this guy as some evil doer, then yeah, you could do that. But I think taking it to that level I don't think it really belongs in film Star Wars, at least not yet. I mean, sure enough, in Legends and in the comics, yeah, okay, but I just don't think that that's something that I think what got a lot of people angry with my tweet was that I said Vader wouldn't stand for this, and these fucking idiots are like, well, Vader kills kids. He would totally. It's like, there's levels to evil. Like, just because he kills people and kids doesn't mean that he's going to full on assault a woman in a sexual way. It's just very strange.
I mean, he did choke Padme while she was pregnant with his children.
He did, but he didn't force himself on her.
Right, choking good, raping no. That's where Darth Vader draws.
That's where we draw the line.
I think that I don't know if I think that Vader would want his troops acting if he felt like it was interfering with their like on the job and that they were not doing what they were supposed to do. If it was making them more like less efficient, I think he'd have a massive problem with it. I guess my other thing is, just because Darth Vader does exist and is in the power command structure of the Empire, do you think that every stormtrooper and every Imperial officer is on perfect behavior because of the threat that Vader might potentially hear about something in the future? Because that's not the way I perceive it at all.
No.
Obviously, the people under his direct command are probably in fear of fucking up in any way, any possible time. But I don't think that extent, like this Imperial officer who's stationed on this backwater fucking farming world, right? Who all he sees are people that look like fucking inbred hillbillies and shit all the time. And some hot undocumented immigrant comes in and starts working on a field. And he's like, hey, you rub your back, I'll rub mine. You look like you have strong hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most of the troopers haven't even met Vader, to be honest. So half of them probably haven't even seen him. The other half probably just like mostly heard about him, with like a few being like, oh shit, I've actually seen the guy. So I think it was just a scene that like everything George did was sort of implied. Like, he just cuts away. Like with Leia, okay, she's in the slave outfit, Jabba licks her, that's it. He's not like grabbing her from behind, trying to like roughly take her and stuff like that, and she's fighting back. Like, it's just weird. Anakin killing the kids. He doesn't actually kill them. You just see the lightsaber ignite.
Have you read the novelization for Return of the Jedi? It was written in 83.
Yeah.
So in that, they take it a little further, and like
she's passed around and shit, or like it's alluded to that she's passed around.
It's alluded to that's what's going to happen, right? And specifically, even that sequence, like when she has, I have very powerful friends, job, and he's like, I'm sure. He's like, I'm sure, but until they get here, I'm gonna make the most out of my time with you. And he doesn't just lick her; he fucking puts he sticks his tongue out and fucking kisses her full on in the mouth in a beast-like way, right? The way it's described. And then he has her change in that outfit because Jabba has a fetish for humans, which is a little bit unnatural for Hud. He has a fetish for human women, and he wants to be able to lick her without tasting the sand from her clothes. Right. So that type of, I guess to me, that's almost more graphic or anything, at least even though it's just kind of alluded to in the movie, like you said.
Yeah.
That's kind of right there too.
It is.
And I do think it would be different if we watched a rape scene. I 100% think that would be different.
Well, for sure. I don't think anyone would argue on that point. But a lot of these Andor fans are like having an issue with the fact that I just don't want to see that. Because there's a big, wouldn't you say that there's a big difference between live action and comic or book?
I think there's a difference. There can be differences sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think it's, like I said, I'm not some big Andor fan or anything.
No, I know you're not. I know Mahler is. I'm excited to see what he's going to say tomorrow.
Mahler loves it. I already told him I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on a controversial scene. He hadn't seen it yet. Yeah. So I'll be interested to see what he thinks too. But
are you on open bar tomorrow?
No, I'm not on open bar.
Okay.
But it'll be interesting to see the reaction. I think that from the reaction I've seen in kind of our space, I feel like I'm in the minority when I'm saying this doesn't really bother me at all.
Yeah. I feel like all our mutuals are like, what the fuck is this?
Yes. I feel
like every Disney Star Wars fan is like, yay, it's realist. What?
Well, I think a lot of this too has been kind of blown out of proportion by the articles talking about how brave it was for them to depict something like this. And I think a lot of people are being like, oh, why do you enjoy watching rape? Or why are you celebrating rape? I don't think that's what they're doing. They're celebrating, displaying how sexual assault is bad. Okay. So I just feel like a lot has been lost in it.
I just feel like it doesn't need to be in Star Wars. Like if it's in The Sopranos, 100%, yeah, fuck. But it makes sense. But in Star Wars, I don't know. I've just never seen a scene like that George did. Sure, in the books there's writing, but
yeah, those novelizations, as we know with those novelizations, not every book that's ever been written, not every comic page George has looked at and been like, I really like that Boba Fett's wife got raped, right? We understand that. No. But for those novelizations,
probably doesn't know half the shit that went down.
From those novelizations that are specifically taken from the script and like passed through George for the novelization, those are looked at by him.
Yeah.
Like quite closely. For instance, The Revenge of the Sith, I would have loved to see like everything we saw in the novelization, which was kind of in the original script.
Yeah.
I wish we would have got to see all of that play out on screen. And Matthew Stover spent, 4 or 5 days with George going over that novelization, making changes. But I guess for me, I am perfectly okay with you doing a more mature theme. I can't imagine any kid wanting to sit through Andor. They'd want to they'd rather, well, I'm not going to say that. They'd want to kill themselves rather than fucking watch that. I was going to say something worse than that first. So I can't imagine any children being like, I loved Andor season 1. One way out, and then are shocked by a rape, an attempted sexual assault that shows no graphic anything. I'm not trying to say rape belongs in Star Wars, but I don't think it doesn't belong, especially when you're dealing with an organization like the Empire, when you're dealing with underworld elements, when you're dealing with things like this. I don't think that depicting this in a mature show, I don't think it doesn't belong. Like,
I think it for sure happens in Star Wars. I think that's a lot of the arguments people are making is that I don't think it exists. Well, of course it exists. I mean, Star Wars has some of the most grimy, villainous beings in the galaxy, but to see it, I don't know, it was the first time for me, and I'm like, man, what is this? And I'm not really a fan of Disney Star Wars like you aren't, and I just feel like every move they make is just so far from what their audience, I feel like, should be or was, that it's just gone in a completely different direction now. So it's like little things like this, I'm just like, man, what the fuck? It's just another acolyte massacre.
I think that I think one thing we can probably agree on is if you're going to make something like this, which is for a little bit mature audiences, right? If you're going to make a story like this, and when you're talking about the kind of levels that they go to, the very slow burn that Andor is in general, all of this stuff, I think it's fine to make shows like that that are towards a little bit more targeted audience outside of just every single person that calls himself a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do that, you can't spend $300 million on 12 episodes of it.
It's insane.
Right. And I think you can tell with some of the shots, especially Chandrilla and everything. I'm sure we're going to see more later on, like how they spent so much building out entire real sets like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's an insane amount of money to spend on something that is not, in my opinion, very palatable to a general audience outside of a sexual assault scene, whatever the argument we're taking place there. In general, I think it's a bad idea.
Yeah. I feel like this one cost $500 million for the whole season because it was $750 for two of them. The first one was $250. So this one's what, like $500, which is insane.
Well, I think it was a little over 700 million before the UK tax credits. So this is something like 645 million between that. So it might be 400 million.
Crazy. These 3 episodes were more than all of Kenobi.
Yeah, probably. It's about the same on the writing staff. Maybe.
Do you like it? Do you like the show so far? This one?
A lot of my
complaints. Think of the forest stuff.
A lot of my complaints about the first 3 episodes are similar to my complaints about the first season. I do think that a lot of stuff in Andor is very well done, especially a lot of the spy stuff with Luthen. Mm-hmm. I think that it's really interesting and cool to see how, when you're starting something like this and you got all these different elements at play and all these people undercover here and you're controlling them, you're controlling what you feed them, and you have to make sure they stay in control. And then Luthen having to make decisions that are awful decisions to have to make, to let 30 people die to keep his source intact, to kill somebody who might be helpful for you in the future because he threatens to fucking expose you. You saw one of those decisions again, Mon Mothma's friend, who he's going to have killed. At the end of that 3rd episode. I think that stuff is actually done really well. There's other stuff like the entire Velen Cinta. Is that their names? Is it Cintas and Vel? Are those the names of the lesbians in it? I
don't know, dude.
Cintas Vel is Boba Fett's wife. I just realized if that's actually those names and I'm not getting them wrong, what the fuck? I found that kind of a lot of nothing. I think all of Cyril's plots are fucking stupid. I like Dedra and I like a lot of the ISB stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't like her in this episode because it was just her and Cyril.
Yeah.
For the most part. What a fucking waste of time that was.
Oh, total waste of time. It's just marital sort of bullshit. And it's like, all right, well, I guess that's the show. You know, it's just much more of a different, very HBO feel. The Krennic scenes were great.
Yeah, I think they were good. Yeah. To me, the point of the show overall is to show how rebellion forms and fosters and flourishes, right? It's to show everyday people across a variety of different spaces, whatever they might be doing, and what it takes for how long do they have to be crushed by this boot, by this oppressive regime? How long do they have to wait, or what has to break, or what has to go wrong for them before they finally say enough is enough? And how do they react when they decide enough is enough? And like the principles that Andor is like based off are probably more interesting to me than I think well executed they actually are. But that's why you see so many examples of the Imperials doing what they're doing to normal people, including abusing their power to try to rape somebody. Now, we already saw Vic get mind raped in the first season, so I don't know if we necessarily needed it, but I don't think it doesn't belong in the show. Like,
I think it happened twice. Didn't it? Remember the first opening scene where she's having that dream of some weirdo, and then he's like pulling the sheet off of her legs, and she wakes up just screaming?
Well, that I believe been a while since I watched, but I believe that was the doctor who put that shit on her. In the first season, when they're trying to get the information out of her, they put that, torture device over her head. And that really fucks her up mentally. So she's obviously still scared about that and scared about the Empire finding them. And then the Empire finds them and one of them tries to rape her.
Yeah, see, that totally took me as like another sexual scene. And I was like, okay, no.
Yeah, I think she's having flashbacks to that. But that's like her worst fear, right? Is being that vulnerable again. Like that's Vick's worst fear, is her being so vulnerable that the Empire is able to take advantage of her again, and then she immediately finds herself in that position.
Yeah. No. Anyways, we'll see what happens with the show. I don't even know if I'm going to continue watching it. I feel like it's just anytime I say something, it just blows up. So it's like, fuck this, dude.
Did you pay attention to the brick and mortar in Chandrilla or anything? Or
yeah, I was trying to really gloss over that, but I was having a hard time. I saw an aux cord, and I'm like,
just really took you out of it, huh?
Dude, yeah, no aux cords in Andor.
I think that. Yeah, I get, like, for me, the whole thing. I always try to like remind myself that I've read a shit ton of things and saw a shit ton of comics that not everybody else necessarily has. So my perception of things can definitely be different than the normal, everyday, average, general audience member. And for me, like, that's a big part of Boba Fett's character is when him and Cintas got married really young, probably way too young. Kids don't get married at 18 or 19. Just a recommendation. But they got married. She got raped by his superior officer. And Boba knew something was going on, but she wouldn't tell him. He found out anyway because she knew that he would fucking kill him. He goes straight up, kills that guy. He gets arrested for killing this guy. And he refuses, because he didn't want to shame her or embarrass her or put that out there that his wife had been raped by somebody else. He refuses to provide the excuse for why he did it. And they end up getting banished, get kicked off Concord Dawn. And that ends up leading to such a big problem with their marriage that they split up. You've got examples like that. Ironically enough, one of Luke Skywalker's childhood friends who does join the Empire, Biggs and Luke wanted to join the Academy. He wanted to too. He couldn't make it, so he joins the Imperial Army. And he works his way up through the ranks. He has a lot of like concerns though about some of the way the Empire does things. And when he's I think he's at a prison or something, and he sees a guard take a female inmate to her cell because he's going to rape her, and he stops him. So we've had instances specifically of, kind of these evil people in power taking advantage of that shit. So to me, it wasn't much. But now if we get to the point where, Bix is showing off the goods and all that stuff, I think we have a different conversation.
I don't think anyone would be having any opposition against that. No, yeah, I know that it exists in Star Wars. I don't think that's the issue. I think just seeing it just took me out a little bit, but to each their own. It's not really a big deal. But as always, if I say it, then it's a fucking huge deal. It's a big problem.
Yeah. Well.
Oh, well.
That's how such is the life of giving your opinion online.
You know what's weird is I bet if like fucking Explained or some shit said that, everyone would be like, yeah, you go queen, you go king. Like, it's wild. But if you or I say something, it's like villainous.
I decided not to tweet about it because I felt like I could not adequately, because so many fucking people in our space hate the idea of it. They're like, that ruined the magic of Star Wars for me. Like, your opinion is held by a lot of people right now. And I felt like if I just tweeted it out, it would get taken out of context and spun in a multitude of ways. So I'm like, I'm just going to wait till I'm live and talk about it.
He's a shill. He's like Jay. Next thing you'll be at Disney World.
Yeah. I do not like having to fucking defend a Disney Star Wars show. But I just think, and I think all of this is like completely glossed over the fact that this is basically a fucking modern day Trump allegory in terms of Imperials going around rounding up undocumented workers because they don't have their fucking visas. Like, that should be the thing that got the most criticism about this episode. Not, doing a scan for rebel activity, blah, blah, blah. No, it's undocumented workers, right? Like, that is.
I saw some of these. people
on
like,
the nose.
Yeah, I saw some people talk about that on Twitter, and then they like screenshotted that I follow Trump, and they're like, he follows. Look who he follows. No wonder he'd say it's like, what the fuck is wrong with people? It's insane. It is so weird, dude. Speaking of visas, I'm gonna be one of you guys soon. So.
Oh yeah, a citizen, or you're just gonna have a visa?
No, I'll just have a visa, and then from there, green card comes next, I think.
Something like that.
Something like that. We'll see what happens, but yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for hopping on, man, and
absolutely, man.
chatting about our favorite Disney Star Wars show, Andor.
Well, no, our favorite's The Acolyte.
Yeah, our favorite show, The Acolyte. That's right.
I heard you spoke with Badger while you were out there in Vegas.
I did a little bit. Yeah, he was out there.
So cool guy in person.
Is he in the chat right now? Is he in the chat?
I don't know.
Yeah, he's cool. He's cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, we should all hop on a stream together.
Yeah, we're trying to at some point. You had messaged me a while ago about potentially getting a new Jedi Order conversation going.
Yeah. Because I've been listening. So that's why I wanted to ask you too. I've been listening to the abridged version, but then I realized the abridged is not the full thing.
That's what abridged means. Yeah.
I didn't know it was abridged. It was on Audible, and I'm like, wait, why the fuck are these so short? They're like 2.5 hours. Yeah.
Abridged audiobooks are fucking trash, man. And I hate that they even make them. Maybe like back in the fucking 80s or something. Maybe when it's like you were limited by the cassettes, or you didn't want to have 20 cassettes. Maybe I can get abridged audiobooks back then. Not now. I don't get it.
Maybe they didn't want to pay the full price. They're like, these books, like no one really reads them. So why are we just
one of the very few positives about Disney taking over Star Wars? There's not many. There's like a million bad things, but you can find one or two silver linings. One of the one or two silver linings is that they have been releasing a lot more of the unabridged audiobooks from the Star Wars Expanded Universe that never got widespread unabridged releases, like the X-Wing novels, which are some of the best stories I've ever read about Star Wars. X-Wing Rogue Squadron series and the Wraith Squadron series. Those all got full audiobooks. A lot of other stuff they've been coming out with recently. One of the very few things that I can say thank you to Disney for.
What would you say is your favorite series from Legends, from the EU?
Legacy of the Force. Legacy of the Force is probably one of my favorite. That's probably my favorite, is Legacy of the Force. New Jedi Order and the X-Wing novels are right up there. And if you ask me on a different day, I might say New Jedi Order. It just depends.
Yeah. So it's New Jedi Order, because I remember when we were on stream a while ago, you told me about these books, and I was like, yeah, I've been wanting to read them, and I never did. And then I found the whole freaking some guy was selling them on Amazon as a box set.
17 book set.
19, dude.
19, insane.
Yeah. And then the NJ, and then the Legacy of the Force, I got that too. So Legacy of the Force takes place, is it after?
After NJO.
NJO, right. Okay.
There's like a 5-ish year gap there.
Are there any of them that are just, you're like, okay, this one's just not really important? Or are they all pretty fundamental to the story?
It would be tough. I think that if you want, here's the thing, if you want an abridged version of the story, you could just
read the ones
that came out, and you could just read the ones that came out in hardcover. I think there's 5 or 6 books. I think it would be Vector Prime.
Wait, you're telling me that even the books that I bought are abridged?
No. I was just making a joke. So there's probably a couple, especially like towards the end, that aren't my favorite. I don't know if you could skip any of them and not get the full story though. But they did come out with, I think 5 of them were released. I think 5 of them were released in hardcover. Vector Prime, Balance Point, Star by Star, Destiny's Way, and the Unifying Force, if I'm remembering right. If you read those, you would get an idea of what the series is about, but you'd miss out on a lot of shit, you know?
No, I'm not going to skip shit.
If that would be like an abridged version of reading them.
No, I'm going to go through the whole thing, but it's taking time, so.
Yeah, it takes a long ass time. I read them when I was fucking younger. I didn't have a job or anything. Just got to fucking sit there like a nerd and power through.
No, I read through some of them, but I never ever finished a single one when I was young. in high school.
Especially if you pick it up and you don't know where it's at in the story, you're like, who the fuck is this character? Who the fuck is that?
I was so confused. I'm like, who the fuck is Cade? I'm like, what is this?
Oh, that was teenager.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm like, what is this, dude?
Like, how do you one question. So sexual assault, I understand what you're saying about your feelings about it in Star Wars. What about sex, period?
Well, how graphic are we going with it?
I'm not saying like I don't think it has to be, I don't think it has to be like fucking full frontal or even involving tits or whatever. I'm just saying sex and sexuality in Star Wars.
I think you can keep that stuff at bay. I think what George did with, making out scenes it's like the extent of it, But I think having like what we had in Andor, there was a sex scene in the first season. I feel like that's kind of
I don't know, man. You mean it was implied that they were about to have sex?
Didn't they? Didn't she like take off all her clothes and?
She basically went over on the bed and started taking off her boots and stuff. Yeah.
But okay, maybe I remember it differently.
And then they woke up the next morning, like another scene happened.
Oh well, that's not a big deal. That's not a problem. I don't think that's an issue. I think, I'm warming up to the fact that you're saying that this show is just like totally different, and I get that it is, but at the same time, it's still within Star Wars, and I feel like why are we deviating so much from how George shot shit, which is implied? It's like, okay, we see them like get to the bedroom, close the door, change the scene, or whatever. Or the kids are there. What are we going to do? There's too many of them. Lightsaber ignites. Next scene.
Don't you feel like that's kind of what we were going to see in Star Wars Underworld, though? I'm not talking about fucking tits popping out or anything, but I'm talking about a more mature themed,
for sure, more mature,
sexually suggestive, more violent, like all those things in this Underworld. Like, don't you feel like that's what we were going to see in that?
Something more adult doesn't necessarily mean that we have to see more like sex scenes. So it's not like where my brain goes. It goes more towards gore.
I'm not saying necessarily sex scene just to have a sex scene. But I am talking about like this undercity of Coruscant when there's a lot more fucking hookers, things like that, where people just in general are into a more debaucherous lifestyle. But I'm also talking, and this isn't necessarily about like Star Wars Underworld, but this is about Sith stories and Sith who are taught to embrace their passions. And there's been a handful of stories. You brought up Cade. The reason you said Cade is why I thought about this, because in Legacy, Darth Talon, who a lot of people talking about maybe in the Maul series, whatever, Darth Talon dresses very skimpily, and she also uses her sexuality to.
She's hot as fuck.
She's hot as fuck, and she uses that sexuality to try to appeal to Cade Skywalker, releasing that passion and using his passion to embrace the dark side. And I think those are all stories that can completely make sense and be a little bit more sexual in nature without being graphic necessarily.
Oh, I'm cool with that. I think that totally makes sense.
That's what I mean. I just think it has to be the right, and I don't think that should be, I don't think that 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds should be reading about Cade Skywalker and Darth Talon hooking up, but I don't think they should watch a TV show with that either necessarily.
I don't think
different audiences.
Yeah, like as long, I don't really feel like that. In Star Wars, at least, like if we're talking about Sopranos or any other show, I mean, yeah, game's on, like whatever. But in Star Wars, if she's getting bent over the bar table and like getting hit from behind, like I just think that's a little much for Star Wars. But if it's as you explained, I mean, yeah, of course, it's totally acceptable. I think that fits the story and it makes sense. To have a sexy character, there's nothing wrong with that. But that and like a rape scene are completely different, I think.
I think if we actually seen a rape, maybe we could, yeah. But
yeah, well, yeah, okay. So even that, what we saw, I feel like was just too much. It's like, why?
Yeah.
What does Jeremy think about this? I didn't see his tweet at all.
You fucking watch this show? I doubt
it.
I
think he secretly sits there and watches every single Disney Star Wars project. He loves it.
I have no idea what he said about it. I don't know if they talked about it on Daily this morning. I know I'm going to talk about it on Geeks and Gamers Daily tomorrow with Jay, which is probably going to be really funny.
Yeah. Has he seen it? Probably not, dude.
I don't know. Probably
I felt like I was doing homework when I was watching it.
Because maybe he feels exactly the way you do. There's a good possibility that that's the case. So maybe me and Jay will fight tomorrow morning.
Maybe. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I guess for me overall, I get if there was like no specific purpose. I felt like the purpose was just to show another aspect in which the Empire is continuing to oppress people. And I thought it was fine. I'm not gonna be like, I loved that attempted sexual assault scene. But I understood its purpose in the story and what they're trying to show, and I just didn't think it was anything. Even if they hadn't even if he had walked in there and he had said, I need something from you, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to tell anyone. And she's like, no, please don't. Please don't. And she backs away as he advances towards her. And then they cut and go to a different scene.
Yes.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. But it's the same, right? it's the same thing. It wouldn't be the same if we saw him bending her over and starting to fuck her and ripping off her clothes. That it wouldn't be the same if we saw an actual rape.
He was getting close.
I don't understand.
Took her from behind. He was grabbing her and doing shit, and then she got off, and it was getting there. He was about to get. She didn't get that pipe, man. It was on its way. But yeah, if it cut, it would be the implied. Okay, that all right.
Would you have rather we see that they cut away and then we see the aftermath, basically him walking out, zipping up his tunic and her just laying there on the floor,
no, that's fucked up too. No, that's fucked up.
Why? It's just implied.
No, that's too much.
Because I think that it's less offensive to see what we saw than that, even though that would have all been implied.
No, we don't need to see that. I don't think we need to see that shit.
We don't.
Why? What does it do for the story? Shows that Imperials, that the Empire is scum and does fucked up shit like this. I mean, genocide's one thing, but then forcing yourself on a woman, I think that's in my book. Forcing yourself on a woman or a child is the most evil, sadistic, fucked up thing you can do. I think it is worse than genocide. I think it's worse than killing.
I can wholeheartedly agree with our brave statement that rape is bad. I agree. I agree with you.
So what I'm trying to say is I think there's levels to it where people are like, Vader would, if Vader kills people, then he would do everything bad, and I don't agree with that. I think
if Vader's dick hadn't got charred, would he rape someone?
Well, maybe he could, do what Dagan Gera did with the Force and make a Force dick.
I think that. So to me, I guess, because I feel like the point of this show is to show people how the Empire affects people on a very micro level, not macro level, like blowing up a planet, not macro level, like seeing a bunch of random, nameless, faceless Mon Calamari enslaved or Wookiees enslaved. Right. It's very much trying to get very personal, and that is about as personal as it gets.
You're right with that, yeah.
You couldn't, if you took this scene out of the show, I don't think I'd be like, I really miss that scene or whatever. But I don't think that it doesn't belong in the story, if that makes sense. It's not a very huge declarative statement, but yeah, do
you feel like they could have done something different without putting that in there, or do you feel like it's just you're whatever? It's not a big deal.
I feel like they're trying to show different ways that the fucking Empire is as fucked up as you could imagine to people in their day-to-day lives. And could they have done something else? Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I have
no, I can see your point of view.
Are we just going to see stormtroopers looking mean again? We've seen that. Are we just going to see them like, oh, halt, you give me that fruit back? I don't know.
Well, I mean, shit. I mean, look at The Walking Dead, when you got Negan lining everyone up, they're like a family, essentially, lining them up and then just bashing their brains in with a bat with fucking barbed wire on it and spikes or whatever. I mean, that's fucked up. That makes you hate the character.
You know what would have made that scene even more fucked up? If he raped Glenn.
Damn. I knew you were going to say that shit. Hey, Maggie, watch this.
He hit him once and his like eye pops out and then he rapes him and then he hits him again.
That's just... Yeah. Okay. Well, that's one way to do it, I guess.
I'm just saying, you could have gotten a whole nother season out of the rape guilt from Negan.
That's wild. Yeah. Shit, I don't know what to say to that. It's a dark ass place to take it, but yeah. I'm just saying, I think there's other ways to make you hate the character. Like if they lined up her and all of them and just like, I don't know, fucking executed one of them or tortured him or something. I think that's one way to do it too. But I don't know. Yeah, rape in Star Wars, wasn't really feeling it. But I see your point of view.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I don't think we agree, but I hear what you're saying, and I get the argument.
I don't think we disagree, but I don't think we totally agree either. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It has on a micro level. I can see, yeah, they're making a point that the Empire really fucks with people's lives in every single possible dark way.
Yeah, that's what I think the point of this story is. I'll be honest, I haven't listened to a ton of like Tony Gilroy interviews, or I just don't, right?
No.
But my perception is that's what they're trying to show with the show is, how people react to something like that. Right. And how different people are pushed to different levels to fight back because
it's probably what he wanted, to be honest, this kind of discourse. Because people are talking about it.
People are talking. That's a whole nother side of how proud they are that they were the milestone. But yeah. But I'll let you go, man. We've been on here for a while. So
thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Have fun. Talk to you later. Bye, chat. Have a great day.
Bye.